Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris and this is my Lord of the Rings hobby. And in today's video we're going to be doing something a bit different. We are going to be painting the range from Conquest Creations, and this is called the Kingdom of Saxonia, which will easily double for anything to do with Rohan basically, and that's what it's roughly based on. So through this tutorial I'll teach you basically the basic paint scheme near enough alongside the one which is done by Games Workshop. Now, just a small little disclaimer, I bought this off Etsy, the range what we're going to paint with today, and I spent roughly about 6 hours having to clean these up. So I would say I will link Conquest Creations website in the description, but I will not be going to show you where I bought it from, just because there might be people who have done it better. Okay guys, so I'm just going to start off by saying, of course, all prime black. It's entirely what colours you want to use. You can use a grey. It's just I had a load of black available, so that's what I've done. Now this might seem like an odd choice, but the first colour we're going to use is Dawnstone Grey on all wood bits. So you see I'm going to be quite liberal with this, paint it all over. I'm going to try and avoid the window satchel things here, as you can see in point two. I'm not too sure what they're called, the crossovers, because they're going to be painted green just to give a bit different colour and lighting over there. So we're going to literally do all that, and also make sure when we go onto the roof we paint the beams, but again leaving this bit here green. Okay, so once you're happy with all the covering, we're just going to let this dry, make sure it's fully dry. You can add 2 layers, it's entirely up to you. I think I did 2 on this one. It just depends what sort of feeling you want off this. So yeah, do take your time and just try and get into as many creases as you can, but doesn't have to be 100% certain because we are going for that worn wood effect. Okay, so now what we're going to do is add the Caliban green, and we're going to use this on all the window frames as you can see here, and also not forgetting that bit of the roof like I mentioned before. And we're going to do this on all the wooden bits, of course trying to avoid where we've done the grey already onto the beams themselves. We're just going to look for the flat panels of the roof here. I'm not too sure what it's called, it probably does have a name, so I don't know. But yeah, just try and follow as close to the video as you can. Again, you can do this for any of the Rohan houses what you bought with the Games Workshop. Don't forget to paint inside the windows too. I've kind of forgot that little small detail. I was meant to be showing you where I painted the green, but sadly the camera didn't pick it up, or I moved the camera out of the way. So the next paint what we're going to do now is look at the roof, and this is going to be Xandri dust. So we're going to use this all over the thatchings, so we're going to basically cover the whole roof, of course minus the wood, so we'll take our time here, make sure we don't get any spills or little bits, because it just means we have to go back to it later on and tidy up, which is neither here or there, but just to make sure, just keep it neat around the edges. If you do, don't worry, Dawnstone Grey, sorry, use that for your little tidy ups on the wood. Okay, so the next colour we're going to use now is Rakhar Flesh. I'm going to use this on the wood, so we're looking at the grey wood only. I'm going to try and do this wherever you want, split and splatter. I've done a lot of mine in the middle, and this is really good. When we use our shades in a minute, it'll show the worn wood effect which we're going to go for, so be as liberal as you want. I do highlight also like the horses' heads at the top there, but you can do down at the bottom, do right up at the top, focus window frames and so forth, because you want to show that worn. I do a bit inside the rooms, but not as much as you would do on the outside, of course, because that's what takes all the weathering. Once you're happy with that, the next colour we're going to use is Retribution Armour. I'm going to use that on the small details along the doors and also the beams of certain woods, basically like the support woods on the buildings. Don't forget to do the inside, of course, because there are a few details in there, but it's quite an easy little appliance, this one. What I do normally is just put a bit on the brush, and then I actually side brush it. If you do make a mistake, don't worry, just go over it with the Dawnstone or the Rakhar Flesh, it'll be fine with that. So once we're happy with the finish of our base paints, as that's the Gold Dawn, the Dawnstone, Caliban Green and the Rakhar Flesh, make sure also the thatch roof is nice and dry. What we're going to do now is focus on the Agrax Earthshade. So as you can see now, we're going to do that on all the wood, even the gold, but we're not going to touch the thatch roof. We're going to leave that as it is. We're going to make sure we're not going to put too much on there. And what we want to do with this, we want to be quite liberal with it, but not too much, if that makes sense. So we want to make sure it's everywhere and all the little details, but we don't want it to pull too heavy on any of the wood. So as you can see, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to move a lot of it around, making sure we keep it moving, keeping it fresh. So this is it done. Also Don't forget to do the inside of the model. Got to make sure all the insides too, because we want that brown to come through, because we want that as a nice wood effect. And you can also see where the wear and tear is, like I said, where we've done those lighter brushes before the Reichland flesh. No, the Raka flesh, sorry, I keep saying that wrong. So just make sure we're keeping it in and out, especially on the texture. You can really see the texture in the different bits here. So as we're going to let that dry, what we're going to do is put null oil. Now we're going to use this on the factory from where I really soak it in and get it all everywhere, getting those details done. It looks messy at the start, and I do agree, when I first did it I wasn't that happy with it, but as it dried and then I added my dry brushes at the later on stage, I was really happy with it. So you got to be quick, just keep moving it around. We don't really want pooling on this, we just want it all in all the recesses, so just keep moving it around like we did on the wood. And this is it done. Yeah, so we're probably going to leave this roughly about an hour or so. I left both the buildings and so forth at the same time, just so they're both done. Okay, so our next bit, what we're going to do is the layer of the floor, the ground layer. And for this I've used a grey pot from Wix. I think it's called like Midnight Grey, somewhere along that. The equivalent is the Mechanicus Standard Grey. So we're going to apply this all over, brush it all in, getting into all those little details. This isn't a great paint for it, but it's just cheap and cheerful. Okay, so now we're happy with the shade and that it's dried. What we're going to look at is doing a full dry brush over all the wooded area, including the gold and also the bits on the roof, so let's not forget that. I'm going to use the Terminitus Stone, and that's a dry brush from Games Workshop. I'm hoping I said that wrong. If I haven't, I apologise. I'm going to be quite lightweight but heavy on certain areas along this, so take your time. I normally do it quite heavy around where the horses' heads are, just to get a few more details. The same with the roof, where the horses are on the roof, we do that. There we go. So don't forget also the green on the roof, and also the odd little bits inside, so you can really see where that worn wood effect now is starting to take its toll. And you can see I missed a bit on the windows, so I decided to add that in a bit later. So now we're going to move on to the roof. I'm going to use the Carrick Stone layer paint. I'm going to use this again in a dry brush manner. So for this one, it's entirely up to you again, the dry brushing on these situations, because the more colour and lightness you add, the more alive. If you want it looking a bit weary, then you only use a little bit, because now that the null oil is dried, it has made quite a lot black, as you can see. But don't worry too much. Like I said, once you add this dry brush on and so forth, it will get rid of that dullness. And I do this in a circle motion all the way along, as you can see here, catching the edges and make sure it stands out. And I'll go heavy in certain areas and light in the other. Okay guys, and there we have it. Now if you wanted to, we can call this job done, and this can go on your gaming table near enough as it is. I am happy with the building, but I'm just going to add a few little details. It's just a few shades along the building, just to make it pop a bit more, stand out, so it doesn't look the exact same all the way around. So the next step we're going to use is the Euphonian Camo shade, and we're going to use that on random planks of wood along the building, and also including the bottom of it. It's entirely up to you where you want to add the details, but take your time, do random patterns. Don't try and do a pattern because it won't look as nice. You just want to show a lot of worn. Also, I focus on window sills, under windows where the water might drip, and the odd little places here and there. Okay, so now that the base is nice and dry, and this is the cobblestone effect what we're going to go for, what we're going to do is give it a nice wash of null oil. Again, make sure this goes into the recesses. Try not to let it pool on the top. We just want to keep smoothing this all over. If you wanted to, you could just use a standard black wash for this. If you can make your own, by all means do it, but I've just used null oil for the purpose so that everyone can buy this from any shop. Okay, so once we're happy with the basing all nice and dry and null oil's done, what we're going to do is get some Dawnstone Grey. I'm going to dry brush this onto all around all the cobbles you can see here. We're just going to use this quite a thick one, make sure we get all those highlights, working it in here and there, but not going into the recesses, of course, because we want that dark breakup of all the cobblestone. So I'm going to do this. I'm also going to do it lighter in certain areas again, darker in others. It's all about where people would walk and where mud and dirt would collect. Once we're happy with that, what we're going to do now is a very light dry brush of Administratum Grey, and like you see me there, I'm just working up and down very quickly, but just make sure I catch the edges, really going for the edges. Now it's up to you how you do this again. You'll see me every now and again rub it in, and rubbing it a bit more, and that might be towards where the door frames are, but I'm just going to quickly go up and down, get a really nice cover of this, make sure those highlights pop. Okay guys, and there we have it. So just to make sure that we are being careful when dry brushing, make sure we haven't got too much on. It's better to start with too little and apply a little bit more on, of course, as any painting would go. About the product, this is from Conquest Creations, called the Kingdom of Saxonia, which can easily double as a Rohan, which I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a gaming board of the Edoras board, so I'm going to mess around with that over the next few weeks and hopefully upload a video. If you do like the buildings and you have a 3D printer, you can go to conquestcreations.com. I'll link it down below. All the STL files are there. If you don't worry, on their website they recommend Etsy sellers for you and so forth. And this is possibly the scheme I'm going to go for the Great Hall, but I'm still undecided, but I do quite like it, a lot more colour pop. If you do like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye for now.